story, and I'm telling you about our deserted house. And last week I left off about the two boys and what they did. They, in front of this old house, there was a grove between us and the road down below, a grove of black locust trees. They're wonderful trees. The bees love them. And if you have one, you'll have two or three. They'll make a grove. And that's what they did in this old place. And the boys looked it over, and there was four of them just in a perfect formation to build a tree house on. And so they talked to their dad, can we build a tree house? And he said, well, let me see your plans, what you want to do. And they sort of drew it out, talked about it for days, and I can remember them getting around the dining room table and drawing pictures and talking to Tom, and he finally said, yes, you can. And to do this, they were going to go out into the forest behind us. We had 2 acres, but it looked like a lot of land beyond that because it was just like into wilderness, into forest lands. It was beautiful. We could walk to a waterfall that wasn't famous, and it was sort of just out there, and it was this huge waterfall, and we could walk on the back side of it, and then the water would come down in front of us, and it was a wonderful place to go on a hot summer day. And it was in a series, so that wasn't the only waterfall that we could walk to. But that's the kind of place we lived near. Okay, and then, so the boys figured it out. They needed some fir poles, and they found some on some private property. They came back, talked to Tom, and said, you'll have to ask the owners first if you can have them. And so they went to the owner, and I never knew this until today when Craig was a neighbor's son was telling us. So they went to the owner, and the owner said, no, you can't do that. So they went back home, they thought about it, and they finally said to each other, Dad said to ask him. We asked him. We'll go tell Dad we asked him. So they went and told their dad, we asked him. Okay, well, then it's okay. And they got their motorcycles, and they went back, and they picked very carefully and cut off these poles. They said to themselves, well, we asked him, so now we can go do it. Oh dear. I have very nice boys, but back then I'm not sure. Anyway, they cut them off low to the ground, and they thought to themselves, they were so dense in there that you couldn't even see the sun. So they thought they were doing the man a favor, actually. And I don't know how many they took. I asked this morning, 3 or 4. Oh no, Mom, more than that. And then they pulled them out and brought them back with their motorcycles. And then they, got them ready, whatever, and they used those. They built the 2-story tree house. It had a wood stove in it. I don't think they ever used it, but it had one. Maybe they used it once or twice. I don't know. And it had a sleeping loft where they slept. And they stayed in that for 4 years. They slept in that, and that was their bedroom. They used their bedroom in the house as their dressing room and where they kept their clothes, but they slept in that tree house. And before they did that, Craig, neighbor's son, had such bad allergies that he could hardly exist in the house. I was to be really careful with the dust, and my theory was don't pick it up and move it around. But anyway, when that cured him, no more allergies, and it was the best thing that ever happened to him, sleeping out in that tree house. And in the morning before school, I would call him to come in for breakfast. Well, one time they didn't come, they didn't come, and they didn't come, and I called several times, and finally they made it into the house. They said, "We're sorry, Mom, but it's windy out there," and we had to wait until the wind just was right so we could open the door. Otherwise, they couldn't. And so that's what slowed him down. Another time, because they got jobs after school, Craig's job was to clean a meat market, so he'd get quite wet in cleaning this. He really liked it. He learned a lot. But anyway, one night it was really cold, and again I called, and finally he came up. And anyway, he said, "Mom, it took me a long time. My pants were frozen shut because they'd gone wet that night and they'd froze in the morning, and just to get dressed to come to the house." Those were two of the things that happened. Another time I remember, they don't remember this, but I can remember it because I was sort of shocked. It was in the springtime, and they said, "We've got to clean our tree house. We're going to clean it out, do some spring cleaning, and we're going to evict the chipmunks." And I said, "The chipmunks?" "Yeah, they come in and they spend the night with us and get out of the cold." Oh my goodness. Anyway, they stayed in that tree house for 4 years. It was really something. And it was something that they knew how to build it, that they were able to get poles even if it wasn't quite right. The other thing the boys did there, and I think John did this with them, all three of them, it was, they did it together. They would harvest the bark for cascara, the laxative. It comes off of a bark of a tree. The tree is called, and I think this is sort of strange, but it's with a C, a shittim tree or something like that. And they're short-lived, and they're apt to die, and they're thick, and behind us they were thick in the forest. Anyway, they would harvest it. We had a shed, a barn shed with a tin roof. They would spread that out on the tin roof to dry. And we're in Oregon where it rains a lot. Anytime it looked like rain, that bark would be off of the roof. And back and forth it would go until they could sell it. And the deal was, when our boys and our kids got older, yes, they could have a car if they could pay for it and pay for their insurance. And they did. All of them had cars. Our driveway looked like a used car lot because they had cars, trucks. Well, they had trucks, not cars. They had their trucks and they had their motorcycles. And the boys were able to finance them. So that's part of our life there. Now, I'm just going to leave you there with the two boys, and I want to walk you back